The last hunt before the snow. The wind howled through the black pines, screaming like a dying beast across the frozen valley. Beneath the skeletal arms of the forest, a family of 5 huddled together in the hollow of a fallen tree. Their breath steamed like smoke from cracked lips. The fire was gone. The food was gone. The winter had come early. Toru, the father, pressed his back against the icy bark. His furs were stiff with frost, barely enough to keep the chill from biting into his skin. His beard was crusted with ice. The fire, which once crackled warmly between them, had long since died out. The pit was filled with ash and frozen coals. Beside him, Meha, his wife, cradled the youngest child, only 3 winters old. Teika was weak and quiet, his cheeks pale with cold, eyes glassy. The twins, Neru and Kefi, sat curled against each other, their small arms wrapped around their knees, watching the empty sky through the cracks in the trees. 8 days had passed since the last kill. The dried meat was finished. Even the marrow bones had been cracked and scraped clean. Hunger gnawed at them like invisible wolves. The forest had changed. No more movement in the brush, no tracks, no rustling in the undergrowth. Everything had gone still. Silent. Dead. The animals had fled before the coming snow. Even the scavengers were gone. Toru had known winters, but never like this. He looked at his family, one by one. Meha, who had once been the strongest woman in their clan, now looked like a shadow of herself. Teika barely moved. The twins no longer asked when they would eat. Toru rose slowly, every muscle aching from cold and famine. He stepped out of the hollow, into the open snow. The wind stung his face, carrying the heavy scent of the coming storm. He scanned the trees, the sky, the ground. Nothing. He turned back. Meha met his eyes. "We move," he said. His voice was dry and cracked. She didn't speak, but she nodded, a slight movement, almost imperceptible. They had spoken about it in whispers, in the dark. The southern valley might still have game. The trees there were dense, the river slow-moving, less frozen. Deer, perhaps. Maybe fish. But it was 2 days' journey across frozen riverbeds, jagged cliffs, and the open white. To stay was to die. They left before dawn. Toru carried a sharpened bone spear and his stone knife. The twins took turns holding Teika, wrapped in the warmest fur they had left. Meha carried their last water skin, half frozen, and a pouch with the remnants of dried roots and bark. They followed old trails, faded from wind, barely visible beneath the snow. The first day was cruel. The cold was sharper in the open plains. The wind bit through layers of fur, piercing skin and chilling bones. Neru began to limp. Kefi coughed blood into the snow, though she tried to hide it. Teika was silent. They walked in single file, conserving energy. Toru led the way, using the spear to test the snowdrifts. Twice he had to double back, where the snow had hidden deep crevices or fallen logs. At dusk, they found a small overhang near the cliffside. Toru scraped away the snow and built a fire from frozen pine needles, dry moss, and a few sticks he'd gathered. It was small, but it gave them light and the illusion of warmth. That night, they shared the last of the roots. The taste was bitter and dry. Teika cried quietly in Meha's arms. Naru shivered in his sleep. Kifai's cough deepened. Meha stared into the flames. "I heard wolves last night," she whispered. Toru looked at her, then at the children. He said nothing. The next morning, the sky had turned white and flat. They pressed on, slower now. Toru spotted signs, old droppings, disturbed snow, maybe tracks, but they were days old. His heart sank with every step. By midday, they reached the river. It was frozen over, but the ice moaned beneath their feet. Toru tested it, then led them across, one by one. Halfway through, Meha slipped. The water's kin cracked and fell into the rushing black beneath the ice. Toro reached her before she could break through completely. He pulled her up, soaked and shivering. The others watched in silence. "It's gone," Meha said. They had no water now, only snow to melt, and no firewood left. They marched into the trees, searching for shelter. Near dusk, Toru found hoof prints, fresh, deep, a lone animal. Maybe a caribou? He turned to Meha. "Stay here, keep the fire. I'll find it. Don't go far," she said. "I won't." He moved silently through the brush, following the tracks. His breath steamed, slow and steady. The tracks weaved through the trees. He found it. A lone caribou, weak, limping, maybe injured. It grazed slowly at the edge of a clearing. Toru crouched behind a fallen tree. He steadied his breathing, gripped the spear. He waited. Then he threw. The spear struck its side. The caribou screamed and staggered. Toru sprinted, heart pounding, leaping over roots. He reached it as it fell, gasping, twitching. He whispered thanks to it, then finished the kill with his blade. Blood steamed in the snow. He worked quickly, cutting meat, packing what he could carry. When he returned to the ridge, the fire was still burning, but his family was gone. He dropped the meat and shouted, "Meha, Naru, Kefi." No answer. Then, a cry. He ran toward it, downhill, through thickets. He found them huddled in a hollow beneath a rock ledge. Meha was shielding the children with her body. A shadow loomed above them, a bear, thin, starving. It had smelled the blood. Toru stepped forward. He had only his blade. The bear growled, rising. Toru screamed. He charged. The bear lunged. They collided in the snow. Snow fell in sheets, thick and endless, covering the trees, the rocks, and the frozen blood. Toru opened his eyes. Meha was above him, her hands red with blood, stitching his side with a bone needle. His shoulder burned. He couldn't move his left arm. The bear was dead. He had killed it. Its body lay nearby, half buried in snow, steam rising from its open belly. Meha had skinned it, used its fur to cover the children. The twins sat close to a new fire, the flames dancing. Taka slept beside them, his breath soft but steady. Strips of caribou meat smoked over the fire. The bear's hide formed the wall of a makeshift shelter. Toru tried to speak. "She," Meha said. "You did enough." He looked at her. At the children. They stayed there for 3 days, eating, healing, breathing. Toru barely moved, his wound raw, but he watched them. The fire, the snow, the stars. On the third night, Naru sat beside him. "Will we live, Papa?" Toru smiled weakly. "We are alive. That is enough." The next morning, they prepared to leave. Toru leaned heavily on his spear. Meha carried Taka. The twins helped gather what they could. The storm had passed. They reached the southern valley by dusk the next day. A stream ran beneath a crust of ice. Trees moved with life, birds in the branches, rabbit tracks in the snow, deer in the distance. Not paradise, but enough. Toru stood on a hill, watching the land. He turned to Meha. "We live." She took his hand. Behind them, their old fire still smoked faintly in the snow, a mark that they had come, that they had endured, that they had survived. If this story stirred something in you, if it made you feel the cold, the hunger, or the strength of a family that refused to give up, then consider joining us. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, and tell us in the comments, what would you have done in Toru's place? Would your fire survive the winter?